So that's the first 3 done. The fourth alert that I would recommend having on any system is the lock percentage alert. Again, this is going to be quite subjective in terms of where you set the level, and at the moment, as things stand, you can only set this for the global lock percentage for a particular instance. So you can't go down to the database level and set individual lock percentage alerts, so it's somewhat of a blunt instrument, and as a result you kind of want to be a little bit careful about where you're going to be setting it. So again, experience here is key. Load testing is key. Knowing how your database and how your application that relies on that database behaves when lock goes above a certain level is absolutely key to setting a sane and viable alert. Let's say that after your testing you determine that after 60% lock you start to see some impact to your application. There's a little bit of waiting going on, your average response time starts to be impacted, and then somewhere around 85% you're actually starting to see significant performance degradation. These are just completely arbitrary values that I'm using for this example. This is not based on any particular application. In fact, these are similar sort of figures that you might see in, say, an Ethernet network, right? And you might start to see some packet collisions above 60%, and once you get above 85-90%, you start going to see a lot of packet collisions. So you can start to see these numbers, particularly greater than 85, greater than 90%, and a lot of things in the computer world in general, but they generally will apply to lock percentage as well. So somewhere between 60 and 85% is where you're going to want to set this particular alert based on your own experience. And generally you're going to probably do this only on the primary. And why is that? Well, that's where all your writes are going. There's only one place writes go, and that's to the primary. So the global lock percentage is going to be most key on the primary. The secondaries in the set will be feeding off of this primary. Generally the operations, and I say generally because there are a few exceptions, generally the operations being fed to the secondaries via the op log from the primary are going to be applied quite efficiently. So your lock percentage will usually be a little bit less on your secondaries unless you're doing something special there. So this will be a primary only alert, and of course it will follow the primary. So if if the primary fails over, the new primary will still be alerted upon. So let's have a quick look at that. So we select the host of type primary. We'll take the global lock percentage and we'll just say above 70. It's a nice way to do it. Again, we'll leave it at any primary host, and once every 5 minutes, well, we might want something even more frequent than that. Let's say it's every 2 minutes. We've decided this is particularly important, so we'll say every 2 minutes, and we'll hit save. It wouldn't let me do 2 minutes. Let's say 5 minutes and hit save. There we go. Global lock percentage above 70 on the primaries. That's lock percentage covered. One final note on that, of course, if your replica set or sharded cluster becomes more busy and you're frequently seeing lock percentage above 70%, it may be time to scale up or scale out more. But in particular, you're going to be getting a lot of false positives there because essentially you're just out of capacity. Now, there might be a few things you can do, but you don't want to increase that lock percentage alert. What you want to do is you want to get the whole system performing in such a way that this is no longer firing.